The Great Line is the sixth episode of the first season of Taxi. This is directed, of course, by the wonderful James Burrows. And as always, there will be spoilers from now as I go through the episode and share some thoughts. And I don't have too many notes. I'm not going to go through things scene by scene, but I will talk generally about the key events in the episode and how I feel about it. And I can sum up, first of all, by saying I like it. It's very unpredictable. And I didn't expect it to end up where it ended up. And I think I liked the ending, but we'll talk about that soon. It starts off in a bar, and I actually think, I could be wrong, correct me if I am, but I think so far out of the first 6 episodes, this is the least amount of time we've spent in the garage. Most of the episode is spent either in the bar or in somebody else's house, and we'll talk about that soon. While in the bar, John meets a woman called Suzanne. She's played by Regan. And she seems really nice, really likeable character. They hit it off really well. They decide to go bowling. And apparently while they were bowling, one of them made a reference about the loser paying for the marriage license. And they kind of agreed with this. And the next thing we know, they're married. Needless to say, that's pretty quick. And I wasn't sure how things would play out. I feel like John was going to be really happy and wearing rose-tinted glasses, and I kind of thought that's what the character would be experiencing, and everybody else would be trying to convince him that this was a bad idea. But actually, almost as soon as he reveals this information in the garage the day after, he becomes panicked, and he realizes what has happened. And there's this scene in the bar. Again, we go back to the bar. Louie is in the bar. It's very, very rare at this point we see Louie out of his cage. It's quite nice to see him doing non-shouting at taxi driver stuff. And then there's actually a letter given to John, written by Suzanne, and Alex reads it out. And I have to say, he read it beautifully. It's a very well-written letter. It was quite interesting to listen to. And the letter was basically saying, I know what we did wasn't right, we'll get an annulment, and she seemed to kind of take the blame. That was my reading into it. My reading of the letter is that this is something quite typical of Suzanne, and that this was probably her idea in the long run, and that she was the one who was pushing everything, and that's kind of my interpretation of her letter, which could help explain why this happened, because I feel like if two people who didn't have this kind of erratic behaviour ordinarily came up with this idea, it probably wouldn't work. Although having said that, I have seen many sitcoms where people do get spontaneously married or almost spontaneously married. But either way, whoever is to blame, this is what happened. The letter was very well written, and John decides to go and visit her. And he takes Alex, which I thought was a really good idea, and they visit her at her parents' house. And I have to say, her parents were brilliant, particularly her father, and he's played by Dolph Sweet. I thought his character was really, really entertaining. I really enjoyed that. And John is there basically to tell her he doesn't want to annul the marriage, and he wants to stay married to her, which is not what I was expecting. I kind of assumed it would be a case of they get married, John realises it's not what the right thing to do was. As I said, I thought it would be other people convincing him of that. And then at the end of the episode, he'd decide, yes, you're right, we'll get an annulment. That's obviously not what happened. And I did enjoy what happened, but I wasn't expecting them to announce at the end of the episode that they're staying married. Very cleverly, entertainingly written as well, when he kind of proposes to her, but asks her to not get an annulment, and then they announce this to her parents and Alex, and just the dialogue there I thought was really brilliant, really entertaining, and really surprising. Definitely not where I thought this episode was going to end up. And honestly, I have no complaints. I really enjoyed it. While I do actually really love the taxi rank or the garage as a setting, the main reason I love it is the bright yellow of the cars. I know that's probably a really stupid reason to like a particular set, but there's just something so appealing about the colour of the taxis. Obviously in the UK our taxis are not that colour, and I absolutely love it. I think it's very eye-catching, but it's nice to spend time in other places, in somebody else's house, in the bar, and I thought it worked really well. The pacing of the episode was great. John as a character, really interesting, really nice to get to spend some time with him and to get to know his personality a little bit better. Suzanne, really likeable, and I really admired what she did with the letter, and Well, everything was definitely not as predicted, but definitely very entertaining. And all things considered, I thought The Great Line was a really fun, very interesting, definitely unpredictable episode of Taxi.